Hello, everyone. So, a couple things to go over. I'll make this quick. This month, we're not going to have so much a set fandoms, but really they're just going to be kind of my choice. So I went to all the old fandoms of the past. I went to just some fandoms I liked, and I picked stuff. I picked stuff like, oh, that's really cool. I like that. Oh, I like how this is done. Oh, just stuff. I picked stuff, and I did it. And that's it. So, with that, a couple other things that I do need to go over. I, I'm also moving around, so pardon if the volume goes all over the place. Moving the microphone. Boop. Anyway. First thing is also we need to go over first 5 days of every month I'm going to take as a vacation or at least a break. With more projects coming up, I need to definitely dissect my time a little bit better, and with some of the new techniques I'm learning, got a couple new pieces of equipment here and there. Hopefully they will make their way onto the videos pretty soon. The Lolita fashion did not make it out before the end of the year. I did not like it. I'm still tinkering around with it. It should be out by the end of this month. If, I just will release it and, shut up about it. And, yeah, that's pretty much how this is going. So this month, it's my choice. So we're either all going to like it or we're all going to suffer. I think we're all going to like it. So, starting off, it's going to be Truth by tranmutshion. Tranmutshion. If you're there and you comment me, tell me if I pronounce that correctly. Anyway, links down below, you know the drill. If you don't know the drill, I'm Schmucky Duck reading it. Although, I will say my challenge this month, I am in a duel of fan fictions against Black Moon Foxy from Twitch. So, at the end of the month, basically, we're going to take our fan fictions and see who did it better. Anyway, this is about can't speak, must be recording. This is Tranmutshion's fan fiction. I'm just reading it. This is from the Steven Universe fandom. And this thing, this is one of those where it's going to tick some boxes for some people, and it's just going to tick some people off. Because it's not one of those happy-go-lucky Steven Universe, fluff fest. You'll see. Anyway. Let's move the mic a little closer. And let us begin. Everyone thinks Steven is the always happy-go-lucky boy that nothing can get to him. But they are completely wrong. Steven is an emotional roller coaster. Sadness, anger, fear, distrust, and self-loathing. All these emotions swirl together and mixing into deep depression. He fought this every day, forcing them down, deep down, making sure no one is the wiser about what he is going through, not even Garnet. Each day these emotions get closer and closer to overflowing and bursting, sending dark thoughts into his mind of the young troubled boy. But one terrible day, allowing these emotions burst, caused horrific events to come to pass. And so it began. As Steven walked from the big donut with pep in his step, he begins thinking with the gems and what they are up to. Little did he know that the gems are having a meeting about him. As Steven makes his way up to the stairs, he begins to hear arguing in his name multiple times. Steven quietly sneaks his way to the screen door, peeking in and listening to the gems. Pearl, I know how you feel, but we have to keep up appearances, says the always calm Garnet, while standing a few feet away from the warpad. Yeah, Pete, trust me, we get it, but Rose asked us to protect Steven, but that doesn't mean we have to like him. As Garnet said, we just have to keep up appearances, like we do until we have to find a way to bring her back. Amethyst said before shoving moldy food into her mouth. I know, but I can't keep this up. Every time I look at that thing, I think about what it took from us. Pearl said, sitting on the couch while fighting back tears. Steven listened as the gems were he was talking at what they were saying. He was just trying his hardest not to make any noise at all. He couldn't understand, all the while fighting back tears himself. Steven knew exactly what and who they were talking about. Stephen's mind began to grow dark as a little bottled up emotions began to burst open, causing voices beginning to speak negative and suicidal thoughts into his mind. Before he knew it, his body began to move on his own. I just wish Rose were not here and not that. Before she could finish, they heard the front door open. In the center of the doorway stood a dead-eyed Stephen. Gems looked at him, putting on fake smiles. Stephen, they said in unison, unaware that Stephen heard part of the conversation. Stephen said nothing as he walked over to Pearl, keeping his eyes solely on her, and sat down at the table in front of her. Confusing the Gem, Stephen usually ran up to hug him. Garnet opened her mouth to speak, but Stephen spoke first. Finish, he said, still looking at Pearl, confused. But he said, Stephen, what are you talking about? Finish what? Pearl said, looking into his eyes to see he was not only sad, but angry as well. Finish the sentence! Stephen yelled, startling the Gems. Then it hit the Gems what he was talking about. Have y'all realized it? No need to play nice anymore. Speak your mind. Stephen said, still looking Pearl in the eye. Their eyes widened as they realized he had heard their conversation. The Gems looked at Stephen for a moment, then Pearl spoke. Abomination. That's what I was going to say, she said, looking Stephen dead in the face. Stephen nodded, before getting up, walking over to Amethyst, looking her in the eyes as well. Yes or no? Do you feel the same way? He asked. Amethyst just nodded her head yes and looked away. Stephen sighed as the voices in his head grew louder while he walked to the Gem he loved and respected the most. Looked her in the eyes and asked her the same question. She tried to explain but raised his hand and repeated the question, firmly, to which she said yes. Stephen sighed once more, truly realizing everything he heard was true. He tried to concentrate, but the voices got louder and louder. Stephen turned around and began to walk toward the door before Garnet called his name, causing him to stop and turning to look at her. Stephen, please, let us explain. Garnet begged, only for her pleas to fall on deaf ears, as Stephen turned around and walked out the door, leaving the Gems in shock over what just happened. As Stephen walked toward the empty boardwalk, it was 10 at night, and he kept hearing the word abomination, repeating over and over in his head. You know they are right. You are nothing but an abomination. Stephen picks up the pace as he heads towards his father's van. His eyes begin to water as they try to ignore what the voices are saying. Let me guess, right going to cry to your father about how the Gems have been lying about loving and caring for you. Stephen stopped in his tracks, only 5 minutes from his dad's. What makes you think he will listen to you? Stephen placed both hands on his head as he lightly shook it, trying to drown the voices out. You did take away the love of his life. For all you know, he could be faking too. Stephen began to shake his head violently, trying to get the voices to stop. You've seen the look in his eyes when he talks about her. They show sadness and regret because he lost her for a little monster that is selfish and can't do anything right. He screamed, running with speed that could rival any cheetah, away from his father's job in Beach City, all while bawling his eyes out. Back with the Gems, they were sitting in silence over what just happened. What have we done? Pearl asked, looking at Garnet and Amethyst. Well, we just ran off the last and only link to Rose, Amethyst answered with an unconcerned tone. I know, so why are we not going after it? Pearl yelled as she was on the verge of panicking. Pearl, Stephen will return. All we have to do is wait, Garnet said with her usual stoic demeanor. But what if he is going to Greg and tells him what we said and they try to leave? Pearl screamed, her fear of losing Rose a second time growing. My future vision doesn't show any routes leading to that path, but on the off chance it does happen, we simply stop them, Garnet said while clenching her fists. Stephen didn't know how or when, but by the time he stopped crying, he ended up on a train headed towards the kindergarten. The voice in his head just kept getting louder and louder. Come on, you know I'm right. Stephen rocked back and forth, saying no. He is right, you know. You were nothing but an experiment. As Stephen got off the train, he ran toward the kindergarten as he begins to wonder if the voices are right. Maybe they are right, Stephen said, walking around aimlessly through the kindergarten. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. It would explain a lot. They don't tell me anything. They don't teach me anything. And I basically had to force them to teach me how to defend myself. Stephen began to escalate. The voice says nothing. It was if they were trying to keep me in mid-condition. Stephen was beginning to laugh and scream while all the rage he kept bottled up began to pour out. He walked over to the wall. On his right, sat next to the gem inserter. Pure rage quickly deserted him. His eyes turned to pure sorrow. Why? Why? Just experiment to them. Something to just throw away when it served its purpose. Stephen said as tears began to fall from his eyes once again. You know what you should do? Stephen shuddered at the sound of it. Give them what they want. You're sitting next to something that can do the job real easy. Stephen started to play with the idea as he looked at the gem tech, eyeing it up and down. Standing up and walking toward the machine, he placed his left hand on it. Abomination and experiment. Stephen crouched down as he began to slide up under the gem inserter. Do it. Do it. Stephen extended his right arm, summoning his shield. Do it. Stephen brings his shield towards his face before launching it forward, allowing the shield to fly off his arm across from him. Stephen watches the shield ricochet before it hits towards the legs of the machine. Do it! Stephen closes his eyes as he hears the shield cut through the legs and just waits for the pain to end. Back with the gems, they went around their time as if nothing happened. Amethyst was closing the refrigerator, stuffing her face with molded food while Greg opened the door. Hey, Amethyst. Have you seen Stephen? Greg asked, with worry present in his eyes. She froze, some food falling out of her mouth, and looked Greg back. He said he was going to stay at Connie's tonight, Amethyst lied, and Greg looked at Amethyst. Amethyst, why are you lying to me? She began to shift side to side before calling for Garnet and Pearl. Amethyst told you, unless it's Stephen, don't call us, Pearl sternly said as she stops when she sees Greg, looking at both of them with suspicion all over his face. Garnet walks out behind Pearl just before Greg speaks. Where is Stephen? Before the gems could say anything, a loud thud sound is heard outside the house. They rush out to see, only to find a huge crater in the middle of the beach. The dust settled, only to see an 8-foot figure standing in the middle of the crater. The gems activate their weapons, and the figures move toward him. But as the dust starts to clear, a pink silhouette became visible. Everyone opened their eyes out of sheer shock because there, standing before them, is the one they thought was gone forever, Rose Quartz. The gem deactivates and rushes forward with tear and joy in her eyes, not noticing she's holding a child-sized figure in her arms. As Greg and the gems get closer, they start to look Rose's crying eyes, which made them slow to a stop about 3 feet in front of her. This gives Greg time to see that Rose is holding someone in her arms. Stephen? Greg whispered as he moved closer to get a better look at him. There was blood dripping. His breathing was shallow. There was a huge hole in the middle of his chest. Stephen! Greg cried out, launched forward, grabbing his son out of Rose's arms. Stephen's lifeless body was held tight, but Greg began to bawl. Jem looked over the scene with blank face as they began to move toward Greg when Rose appeared in front of them, blocking the path to the grieving father. Rose, we are so happy to see, but how are you here, and what happened to Stephen? Pearl said. Rose said nothing. As her stares, with bangs covering her eyes, Garnet inched closer. Rose, are you... Before Garnet finished, she was sent flying into the house with a single strike. Before Pearl and Amethyst could react, they went flying right after her. Garnet had to suffer getting Pearl and Amethyst crashed into her, knocking her back down. They managed to get back up, only to see Rose landing a few feet away from him. Why? Rose, what are you talking about? Why are you attacking us? Why? Rose's yell causes the gems to freeze. Why did you lie to him? Why did you hurt him? Why did you not go after him? Why did you kill him? The gem completely stops. How? How do I know? I see everything he sees. I feel what he feels. Everything he went through, I went through. She launched herself, knocking all 3 of them into the room door. Answer me now. They stood there, stammering, trying to come up with an excuse, but nothing came. Rose's appearances in front of Amethyst surprised her, and with quick and powerful kicks, Amethyst blew up into a cloud of purple smoke. Pearl and Garnet looked horrified as Rose picked up Amethyst's gem, bubbled it, and sent it away. Now, tell me why, she asked, looking both Pearl and Garnet in the eyes. We wanted you back, not that, Pearl begins to, but Rose interrupted her again. Abomination? Rose said, looking Pearl in the eyes. Pearl sees both blinding rage and crippling sadness. Pearl started, but Rose rips Pearl's gem right out of her head, effectively silencing and poofing her. Bubbling her away, Rose turned her gaze on Garnet, who says nothing, knowing it is futile. She just waits for the inevitable end. Garnet closes her eyes as Rose runs her fist right through Garnet's chest, proofing her instantly. Rose grabs Ruby and Sapphire, sending them away with Pearl's gem. Turning back around, she made her way toward Greg, who was now crying in silence. Wrapping her arm around him, they cry, all the while repeating, I'm sorry. Alright, so that was Tranmutshion's Truth. Now, Steven Universe is a very upbeat kind of show. The reason I like this is really, if you think about it, that could very well be the case. At least if you're new to it, you can think about it and go, this may have some merit. And I like how it was done. So, obviously, it's being Anderson's choice. It's my choice. So, if you enjoyed it, hit the links down below. Show the author some love. Give a good review. Otherwise, they don't know what they're doing right. And with that, hope you have a good one. Ta-ta for now.